Yeah, it won't let us, or is it doing it? This is recording, so yeah, we're good, we're all signed in, so you can stop if you want to. Recording.
Where is it now?
I think if you go up to the top, up here, and just hit stop.
Everybody.
Good evening, everyone. It's called to order. John, we are down a couple of board members, so you are a designated alternate, a voting alternate.
Okay.
Here you are. Our agenda this evening, there were two issues on the agenda initially, the patch auto body amendment application and the Manitoba subdivision. Patch has been pulled from the agenda, so we won't be looking at that tonight. When I was looking at the material on the town website this weekend, I realized that what was out there was his application, his initial application from last year, and it was not what he has prepared for an amendment request. So because everyone didn't have a chance to look at that in advance, they're taking that off the table tonight, and Chip has notified him that we will take that. So the single item on our agenda tonight is the Manitoba Woods subdivision. The final plan has been submitted, and we found that complete on April 8th. And tonight's purpose is to hold a public hearing on that final plan application that is before us. Just as a matter of review to refresh everyone's memory, this was found to be a major subdivision, meaning that the town's review is in 3 stages. We looked at a sketch plan, we then looked at a preliminary plan, and before us tonight is the final plan. The preliminary plan was reviewed by the board. We did hold a hearing on the preliminary plan, and I know a number of you participated in that. And that was approved by the planning board on the 11th of February. Following that, the final plan was submitted, and we are holding a hearing on that this evening. Our process tonight will be to hear a summary and some highlights first by the applicant. Planning board members may have questions about that summary, and so we will ask those questions following the applicant's presentation. And it will be opened up for public comment for any interested parties to make comment or ask questions. And there will be plenty of opportunity. If we need to, we'll come back to people. If you make a comment and have something else to say before the end of the meeting, I'll get back to everyone, so you'll have plenty of opportunity to provide all of that to us before. So at this point, I will open the public hearing, and I would like to remind everyone that the applicant was instructed putting the final plan together, that all of the documentation and plans did not have to be resubmitted. They had not been changed. That had been a question when we started on the final plan process, if everything had to be resubmitted. So the direction to them was that if plans or documents didn't change, they could reference those in their application. So if you look,
Paula, I'm sorry, Paula. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I cannot hardly hear you at all.
you can't.
I can't. Yeah, I don't know whether sound can be turned up or volume can be turned up, but can barely hear you.
Well, if it's looking, I'm not really not softly.
The audio settings.
Maybe
We're not even on the again. Is that better, John?
It is better, yeah. When you're talking, Angelica, you know, I can really hear you.
Can you hear me, John?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, great.
That's better.
Okay.
Let's just stop the great time to show. We are definitely fighting tomorrow.
Okay, so that was about the application itself and how that was put together, because there had been some questions about that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that we did receive a few comments on the final plan application via email. And there were some questions that came up about whether or not it was appropriate, because some of it was new information or comments that hadn't been made before. And so that that is clear, it is appropriate for us to take new comment if it's appropriate at this point, because the final plan application constitutes a new application, and it's a new process rather than a continuation of the previous process, which dealt with the preliminary plan. So we have a new application in front of us, new opportunity for hearing, new opportunity for comment, just so that that is clear. Are there any questions about the process we'll use tonight, or the opportunities for comment, if you have them? Okay, and if not, Bob, I would invite you up, and if you could provide a brief summary for us, perhaps highlighting some of the significant issues that we dealt with during the preliminary plan process, because I think some of those will be raised again, and highlight anything else that you see of significance with the final plan. I don't believe it's necessary to go through everything that we've covered already through the preliminary process, but choose those things of significance that you'd like to highlight for.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll be as brief as possible. My name is Bob Berry. I am an engineer with Mainland Development Consultants in Livermore Falls. With me tonight is Tanner Burnett, an engineer who's done a lot of work on this project. Also, the applicant is here. John Lawrence is right here in the audience with us, and Jim is, I believe, with us via Zoom. So, so we're all here. Tanner, you set up the plan? What we've got is Minatomo Woodlands subdivision is a 9-lot subdivision, one of which was sold legally prior to the rest of the subdivision being designed. Thanks, Tanner. We are proposing to upgrade the old North Wayne Road to meet town standards. We are proposing to upgrade the first 425 feet or so of the Minatoma Camp Road to meet town standards, and we're proposing a new road to meet town standards, extending what was the old North Wayne Road. We're going to rename that Juniper Lane and curl that up into the site. And show me a thank you, Tanner. There's that first 425 feet I was talking about. This is Juniper Lane that comes up this way. And then there's the new 8 lots. Of significant concern that we heard a lot of stuff about was stormwater. We presented and responded to numerous comments on that. And the stormwater, as proposed, meets town and Maine DEP standard. And in fact, Maine DEP has already issued permits for the project. Another point of concern was wells and water supply to the any abutting wells. I want to reiterate that the materials provided were found preliminarily sufficient and approved. The idea here is that the materials initially submitted were intended to show that the homeowners in this subdivision would have sufficient water, which is what the town standard is. And then further, we went on to comment by a professional Maine certified geologist who is experienced in hydrogeology. His comments about water supply and how that might impact others. This site produces more groundwater than it will use in the wells. Further, because of septic systems, it all goes right back into the ground anyway. So, that should address the well water concerns. There is a fire pond proposed right here in the corner, where a lot of the stormwater from the site will go into that fire pond, providing a source of fire suppression water that is, accessible by a dry hydrant on the pond, pretty standard, submission or, layout for that. We have made DEP permits, 2 permit by rules, 1 for the site as a whole, 1 for a stream crossing right here. And let's talk about the name, Unitomo Woodlands subdivision. There's been some concern about that. The applicant submitted a letter commenting on that. The abutters were concerned, I'm summarizing, I'll let them do the talking on that. But they were concerned about the name of the subdivision being confused with theirs. There's no copyrighting a land place name, just like authors can't copyright the title of their book. It doesn't work that way. Further, just because the names are similar does not allow someone to have access to someone else's property without their permission. So that's just not the way that works. And also, there's a lot of no trespassing signs down there. I went down as far, and when I met the no trespassing signs, I turned around and left because it said no trespassing. So some of those concerns were addressed in the materials in front of you. I don't know if you got them. Some of them came in just this morning. So it was a kind of a flurry. We didn't see the abutter comments for this application until I think Friday, when we saw them and started working on them. So unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of time. So what that meant was there was a flurry of activity with letters and emails back and forth. So hopefully the board has all of those. If not, we have brought copies with us and we can give you those. That's it. I'll keep that short. If there's any questions the board has before we start the public hearing, I'm happy to answer them.
I did have a question for you, Bob. At the last meeting, we had talked about the need to get an approval from the road commission. Was that process completed?
I'm glad you asked that. I completely forgot about it. We were able to get in front of the road commission and they approved the road at that meeting. I think, did you have information on that or you confirm that, right?
I wasn't aware of it.
Oh, okay. We did go to that meeting and we got an approval from the road commission.
I did talk to Eric this morning about that also, and he said, I'll reach it up. He was there as well.
My apologies, Chairperson.
Was there something in writing from the road?
No, there's no writing that, they just gave us a verbal. Go ahead.
So it would show up in the minutes, Joe?
I would think so, but I'm not sure who does the minutes for that commission. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Other questions for Bob?
Thank you for your time.
I guess I have one, which is going to come up, I know, apparently based on the comments we've just received from some abutters, in calculating of water flows and well draws, was the communal well of the camp association considered by the developers?
We did not go and measure any wells on any abutters. Again, the well map that was submitted, we talked about this at length back in the preliminary process, just to refresh everyone's memory. The wells were the ones that we showed were the ones documented on the main well database. So it was not an exhaustive list, and the point of that list was specifically to show that other wells in the area produced water. And that there's no reason we shouldn't expect that these new 8 lots would also not be able to produce water. So to answer your question, Peter, no.
Okay, sure.
If that's okay.
It's my understanding that that well has. It's my understanding that that well has been there since 1926. I don't know if my grandfather built it or it was existing.
I was a camper there for decades. I've been associated with Manitoma for decades. I don't have any record of that well ever going dry in 100 years. And I'm not a hydrologist, but I believe you have a very qualified hydrologist who examined the situation. And I'm not aware, and when my father was running the camp, there were many more people at Manitoma than there are now, and we never had an issue, to my recollection, in the past 100 years.
So to try to summarize this issue, well water is, first I want to say, there is no guarantee that a new well will not impact another well. No one can make that guarantee ever, anywhere. The standard says that we ought to show and provide evidence that there's enough water for the subdivision. And there is. We provided that information, we provided a water budget, how much water lands on the site, how much water would infiltrate into the ground versus how much would be drawn. Forget about the fact that we're reintroducing it back into the ground once we're done with it, just like everyone else does in Readfield. So, so that was provided there. A detailed hydrological study would be appropriate in a large commercial groundwater drawing. It would be appropriate in a municipal draw. Those would happen where you're looking at specific wells and drawdowns. Would be looked at when you're drawing more water than you're replacing. Poland Springs has to do that. A town municipal water system or a city water system where they're drawing water out of the groundwater, they would do those studies. When you're drawing water and reintroduce it right back into the ground, your budget is zero. So it's just not done. That is beyond the scope of normal hydrogeologic studies. I don't know if that, I don't know if that gets.
That does, no, thank you.
And just to be clear, there is also a standard in the land use ordinance pertaining to groundwater generally that says the proposed activities shall not, alone or in conjunction with existing activities, adversely affect the quality or quantity of groundwater. So that is apart from the necessary documentation about ensuring that there is water available for the development. But in my own experience with respect to that is that, the types of situations that you're outlining, Poland Springs is probably the best example we have in the state of a situation where, further investigation would be necessary to actually address a standard like that. And I don't recall a situation where we have required that of something like a subdivision.
Because I was looking at that too. So the part that you just read, does that mean adversely affect the quantity of groundwater of the butters or? So,
Adversely affect the quality or quantity. It doesn't say. I think you kind of have to. I read it broadly.
so what you did,
I think you could read it.
okay.
I mean, if there was reason to believe that the proposal in front of us had the ability, to actually have that kind of impact.
Again, per the submitted materials, each house would draw around 300 gallons a day. That's according to the plumbing code. Today it's usually less, but we still use that to design septic systems. So the house would draw 300 gallons per day and then reintroduce 300 gallons per day back into the ground through a septic system that is designed and built according to state code such that it is a safe reintroduction of groundwater back into the groundwater regime. Everybody here that lives in Readfield has the same system, and that's what they do. So there is no withdrawal of groundwater as a whole from the site because it's all reintroduced back into the ground. And even then, the range is an order of magnitude more groundwater, more water being introduced into the ground than then is being withdrawn. This is, then that's, I'm kind of citing materials that we've already submitted.
Just one more question for you. With regard to the concern about potential buyers of properties in the subdivision, trying to gain access to the Manitoba waterfront and so forth. Since, if there was a homeowners association, I suppose that's something that could be addressed in a document, like bylaws, but that's not the plan at this point. You're simply looking at a road association.
You're looking at a road association, that's what's been submitted, is a road association. No one has rights to other people's property. That's just,
I understand
right,
that.
so, we don't see the same concern.
And we submitted a sample deed, correct?
Yeah.
Language has been submitted.
The deed covenants have been also.
Correct.
Yes.
The deed covenants, what?
There are deed covenants as well, as a road association, and then there's deed restrictions that would go, or deed covenants that go with each and every lot.
And I was actually gonna ask about that. I'm not suggesting that the deed covenants normally would talk about that, but do they, say that this does not confer a right to use X, Y, Z?
They do not.
Have we seen them?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep, they were in your preliminary packages. No, but my lot where I live doesn't have a deed, I'm not trying to argue with you, but you know what I mean, I doesn't mean I have rights to my neighbor's land, so.
Other questions for Bob?
Hi, could I speak for a second? This is Jeff Green. So I heard John say that he has a 20-year relationship.
Sir, would you hold on? The chair.
I'm going to be opening it up for public comment momentarily.
All right, I apologize, but the audio is still very difficult to understand, so I will just hold back and you can let me know when it's appropriate to speak. Thank you.
Okay, are you not hearing me right now?
There's your answer.
I'm sorry, did you ask me a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you more clearly than I can hear the person standing at the podium. And I can only, make out every other word. So the audio in this meeting is not very good for people who are signed on through Zoom.
I will speak up, Madam Chairman, from now on, I will speak
It's
loud.
not just about speaking up, it's the echo in the room. So I will get off, I will mute my microphone and let you continue.
Okay, we will get back to you, absolutely. Okay, we may ask you to come back up at some point, but thank you for that.
Thank you all.
So at this point, I will open it up for comment from interested parties, members of the public. And perhaps the best thing to do, Mr. Green, would be to start with you. Why don't you go ahead and provide your comments or questions at this point, and then we'll get to the others in the room and the others on Zoom following that.
So thank you, first of all. And secondly, I can't speak to some of the technical issues regarding water because that's outside of my area of expertise. But I do have a 20-year history with John and his family on behalf of the Manitoba Camp Association. So it's not a personal experience between myself and John, but from the association. And John stood up and he said he has a 20-year association with Manitoba Camp Association. But what he didn't tell you is that relationship has been nothing but acrimonious for the last 20 years, resulting in 2 lawsuits, both of which were won by the Manitoba Camp Association, and that he also owes the camp mid-5 figures in past due association dues, for which we have a second lien on his woodlots, which are part of the Manitoba Camp Association. My experience and the experience of Manitoba Camp Association is that John has proven himself to be untrustworthy, and that if he is required to do certain things or prohibited from doing certain things, for example, from telling prospective buyers that they can't have access to our property or to Lovejoy Pond through our property, our experience is he will go right up to the edge of that line, and if nobody's looking, he will cross that line with a wink and a nod toward a prospective buyer about their ability to access the lake through our property. And I think many of us in the association are concerned about John living up to whatever agreement you approve and hold him to, because there is no way to hold him to these requirements unless we take him to court again. And that's something we don't want to do. So if John had any sense of goodwill toward the association, he would not name this development with the same name as the camp. And there's no reason for him to do that other than to aggravate us by conflating his development with the camp and giving prospective buyers the impression, if not the legal approval, that they can come down and use our property in order to access the lake. And I would like to hear from the
This is
planning
the same
board
issue that you
as
put
to
in
how
writing
they're going
to
to
us.
hold him.
Mr. Green, the chair's talking to you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is the issue that you put in writing to us earlier today, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. And you know, I let you put this out there, within the hearing, but what I do need to say is that I think that whatever history you have, with Mr. Lawrence is really a private matter that this planning board, cannot do anything with in this context. I understand what you've said, but I don't believe that, what you're putting before us relates to any of the standards that the board is responsible for reviewing and making determinations on. We do have your letter as a part of the record, and it will remain there, but I would ask if you have any other issues beside this one that you would like to outline for us. I think we understand this one as well as we're going to.
Okay, I just want to say finally that this all started 20 years ago when John's father submitted a docket to the planning board with fraudulent covenants from the Manitoba Camp Association. And
Mr. Green, I think that we're going to move on
all
to
right, that's fine.
some relevant comments.
I just want you to understand the history, that's all.
Okay, all right.
And we hope that we don't have to go to court again.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Green? Okay, I'll move on to, okay, if you'd like to come up, please. I'm Debbie Norris.
So there's this land use permit application, and in that is a document that references, it says Plan Amendment Camp Manitoba, dated July 1st, 2003. That's a fraudulent document. The plan of Camp Manitoba was written in 1980. and it has 17 covenants. And in 2003, Mr. Lawrence, Jim Lawrence, changed it to add 3 covenants and to alter 2, to say that lot 8, 9, 10, and 11 can be developed, when our covenants say that it's woodlot use only. So why is the 2003 fraudulent document amendment on this document? And if the buyers of his lots are given the opportunity to buy 8, 9, 10, and 11 in our subdivision, and they read this, they're gonna look at it and it says those lots can be developed. And they can't. And this is what Jeff is referring to. We sued on this and we won. So why is it on?
I'm not,
Ms. Norris, are you saying the current plan, the current subdivision plan before us, does that encompass those lots that you are talking about?
The plan for Camp Minotoma.
No, I'm talking about the current subdivision plan that's in front of our board. Does that encompass these lots, these 3 lots that you say were fraudulently included in the 2003 document?
I don't know.
the subdivision plan that we're talking about, that the planning board has to make a decision on, is that plan on the board behind you? That is what we're looking at.
And the subdivision layout plan, which is right here, I don't know if it's the same as what's on there, but it's the subdivision layout plan. References the Camp Minotoma plan dated 2003, which is fraudulent.
Right there, number 2, under plan references. Plan amendment, Camp Minotoma dated July 1st, 2003. A survey by Thayer Engineering recorded in plan book. So, yes, it's referring to a fraudulent document, needs to be removed.
But what's the relevance of that?
It associates.
I'm sorry, let me finish my question.
Sorry.
What's the relevance? We don't get into, first of all, I don't know that there's been a court determination of what's fraud, that was a fraudulent.
Yeah, there was a lawsuit and we won.
I do not know whether that litigation encompassed that particular issue of what was fraudulent. But even if it was, what is the relevance of that to our current consideration?
Because the buyers on his lots will see that Camp Minotoma amended plan. They will see that and they will read it, and it will say that lots 8, 9, and 10 can be developed. It's my understanding that lots 8, 9, and 10 are going to be presented to these owners for them to buy. It'll be an enticement, perhaps. That's my word. So they're going to think, okay, well, I'll buy lot 8 or 9 or 10. And it says right there in the 2003 plan that they can be developed, and they can't. So it's wrong, and it needs to be taken off.
Are you saying that lots 8, 9, and 10 in this proposed subdivision?
In Camp Minotoma subdivision.
Not this subdivision.
No. But that's on there. That is our subdivision. Camp Minotoma is on that document. So why is it on that document? And if it needs to be on that document, it needs to be the correct plan. That's a fraudulent plan. And we went to court on that and we won.
What's the, letters at the bottom?
C 2.1. It's also up on here. F 1.1.
So you're talking about number 2, plan amendment, Camp Minotoma dated July 1, 2003, et cetera. That's the reference.
Yes. So John is actually the one referencing our plan.
I'm sure how.
And that's a fraudulent document.
Bob, perhaps you could, can you shed some light on this, why that reference needs to be made on this plan? Let me ask first if there is, I'm sorry, Norris?
Debbie Norris.
Is there anything else you would like to provide before we get some kind of an explanation?
No, nothing.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Bob, could you shed some light on that?
Absolutely, and I think it's a good question. This is a survey document, because it is a boundary survey, sorry. It's a boundary survey, and it's a subdivision of lots. This is a survey document, that's what the planning board will eventually approve, we hope. So it's a boundary document. As part of a boundary document, there's a record of some of the plans that were looked at. And those list of plans there are plan references that our surveyors used to produce boundary information. And so they're just saying that this note is saying, hey, we looked at a plan that had boundary information. And therefore we were able to produce some of these lines and some of these lines based on the previously approved subdivision plan for a neighboring property. Standard boundary survey work. And they're required to show where those plans are on the survey document. We are making no contention that any of the lots here are developable or not developable. In fact, my understanding was from early on that they are not developable. These lots here.
They cannot be developed.
They cannot be developed.
That's correct.
There's
They
no.
cannot be built on, they cannot be developed.
So that's, to us, that's not the issue. We're just showing the track record of where we went to look for plans to produce boundary information at all. And besides, this subdivision, whether or not these lots are developable or not, it's not germane. We're here with our property and we're producing a subdivision plan for this property.
Well, then why is it on there? Why are you referencing a fraudulent document? John knows it's fraudulent.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Barron,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
to your knowledge, did the prior litigation involve change any boundaries?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So the lots that you're referring to in yours, in this current subdivision plan have nothing to do with the lots, those 3 lots in that prior plan?
They do not.
Okay, thanks.
Most one?
Can I direct a question to Bob about that? Why can't you direct, reference the 1980 plan instead of this 2003? That would eliminate any of those issues.
Madam Chairman, can I answer that?
Yes, please.
Okay, the surveyor chose which plans to reference on the list. It had nothing to do with any of the developability of those lots. It was all about boundaries.
1980 plan shows the boundaries as well.
But the surveyor used the 2003 plan. When the survey was done.
Because that plan was the most recent one,
Yeah.
and that plan then references earlier plans. It creates a track record of where the boundary information came from.
Okay, thank you. Okay, other comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Pam Cahill. My husband and I live in Woolwich, and we have been owners at Camp Manitoma for 30 years this year. Doesn't seem possible. We love it there. We love it there. Our kids love it there. Our grandkids love it there. We've had 4 generations of golden retrievers that loved it there. So camp is our happy place. It's where we like to go. We're part of I think I explained this the last time I spoke to you, but we're affectionately called the Hillies because we're not down by the water. We don't have the original cabins. We have cabins that were built afterwards. So we're up on the hill, which means we're directly downstream of the development, basically. But we have all the privileges of being, we pay dues the same way everyone else does. We're full members of Camp Manitoba. We serve on their boards, we serve on their committees, et cetera, et cetera. So my concerns are the wells. And I don't really care about this, except the quality of water or the availability of water for the subdivision. What I care about is the availability of water for Camp Manitoba. My well, for example, we own our own well, our own septic system, was not on the plan. And neither was the well that feeds 22 other homes down below. That well was not on the plan. Seems to me that that's a major mistake when you're looking at the availability of water for these folks. I guess, and I'll leave that alone. We're just very concerned about the wells. And my concern is what happens if not this year or next year, but 3 years down the road, after 30 years of having great water, my well runs dry. Probably nothing if my well runs dry, but what about the Norrises when their well runs by, or the other neighbors? I'm very concerned about the wells. And I'm also concerned about runoff. We're having 9 new homes in back of us. And if anyone would care to come to Manitoba at my invitation now, without the 9 homes, you would see there's constant streams already running down there. And I can't believe in my own mind how 9 more homes is going to make that any better, because I don't think it will. I think it will be a lot worse. There are streams in every one of our driveways right now running down to the lake. My concern is 9 new homes. They're going to be great homes. They're going to be expensive homes. They're going to have great lawns. They're going to fertilize the lawns. And where does all of that run off? Ultimately, after it goes over all the barriers that are being proposed by the developer, goes into Lake Manitoba, Lovejoy Pond, goes into Lovejoy Pond. All of that runoff ends up there with the phosphates and everything else. We're really proud of this lake. There's no public access to it. When people come with boats, if guests come with boats and everything, we check for milfoil. We're very careful with that lake. And if something happens to that and that lake becomes, the runoff starts into the lake, it's not recoverable. We can't recover that ever. That lake will not, pond will not be recoverable. The second thing I have is the road situation. We already have, this spring has been kind of a test for this. We already have significant erosion in areas of the road that we've never had erosion before. We've been there 30 years. It's where Meredith's house is there, and it's not her fault. It's, but I just want to make the point that we're going to have to do something serious about the road, or the developer's going to have to do something serious about the road, because it's already beginning to show wear and tear. So it's going to have to be built up to standards. I don't know what the standards, they said it's going to be town standards. I don't know what those standards are. But this road is our access and our only access and our only egress to get in and out of our camp, our property. So that's fire, emergency situations and that sort of thing. And I am a little skeptical that that road will be something that we are comfortable with, and that John will step up to his obligation to maintain that road, quite frankly. And finally, I'd like to, John just doesn't have a good track record with us, so there's trust issues there, and I understand that's beyond your purview, but I think you should be totally aware of the fact that we're concerned about this development and its potential impact on our happy places. Thank you.
I have a question. Has your well or any of the other wells in Canada run dry over during drought periods?
No.
Yes. Ricky's well.
Which one?
Ricky's well.
Oh, yes, one well.
Last year.
Ricky's well ran dry, but
No other problems over the years?
No, they've been great. My well has been great. I'll speak for my well. I don't know about down below because I don't live down below. We have great water and plenty of it.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Others, raise them up.
I'm Brad Cahill, Pam's better half. Anyway, the whole area is quite wet in there, and I think members came down there last year to walk the closed road, and at least one person, maybe two, wouldn't walk it because it was so wet that they didn't have boots with them. And our cabin in the spring here, the water runs right under it, we're on post. And because when it freezes, it heaves the posts and the pads and had to have it repositioned. And I know our next door neighbor has written a letter to you guys, the same problem with the water running down now. And we've had Scott Horn comes in from Mount Vernon every year to go over our roads with an excavator, a regular highway grader, and a compactor, a rolling compactor, and to keep our roads, and he does the ditching. We have a maintenance guy that's cleaning ditches all the time from leaves and debris, so there won't be any erosion. So I'm just saying, it's a pretty wet area now, and once you start down the steep hill to the waterfront, it picks up speed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is David Alsevet. I'm here, I'm sort of speaking for the people who live on the large part of Manitoba that has the 20 odd people who all rely on one well. So we have a seasonal camp. Those are all seasonal camps there. I think we're up to 22 individual owners who all rely on that well. And my understanding, and I've submitted this completely in writing to you, but our understanding is that our well was not included in the original adequacy analysis, and that we feel that it would be within your power to use your authority and require that the developer conduct another independent evaluation, taking into account all of the wells that are known now. That way, we can be sure that our well, the other existing wells, and any new proposed wells will not pose a threat to the quantity or quality of the water. Let me just add this. I was president of the Manitoba Association about 12 or 14 years ago, I forget exactly the date, when we had to replace our septic system and rebuild it completely. One of the things we did in order to in order for this to be approved was we had to show what the total amount of use of the septic system would be. And that's measured by the amount of water that we take out of our well. We measured something like 2,000 gallons a day out of that one well. And that was a low, I think that was a low number because we were all being very careful not to overdraw it at that point. So that gives you a data point as to how important that well is to a large number of people.
Questions? Thank you very much. Other comments? Yes, sir.
I'm Warren Norris. I'm one of the 4 full-time residents on Manitoba Camp Road. I've been living there for about 8 years. I had to go through the process of having the CEO come out and make sure that we were building our house to the proper standards for the town of Readfield. I just want to give a brief discussion on my well. We put a nice well in, been great, 8 years, good flow, so. Water's very sweet. I have 2 reservations about the developer's plan. One is in relation to obviously my selfish concern, which is that the wells remain adequate. I think it's really important that in the plan, that he does not reference 3 users along Lane Road, including 1 future user, 3 along the upper Manatoma Camp Road, including 1 of Butter's future use, 4 along the lower Camp Road, which includes a community well, which serves the 22 seasonal work families, and 1 seasonal user along the north fork of the Camp Road. There, and mine is not included in the survey either. So that's quite a few points of depression on that aquifer. And things can happen. We might have a really bad droughty summer, and all of a sudden, 9 additional families up there would be take up quite a bit of the consumption or capacity of our well. So that affects me. And I'm concerned because a hydrologist, a well-known hydrologist who we don't know and remains nameless, has said, oh, it's fine. It will be okay, because historically we haven't seen any issues. There shouldn't be any reason for us to be concerned. I'm concerned because that's a generality, and no one's required to take those other data points into consideration. Secondly, the future success of the development. We know where this is going. This is going to be approved. He is going to be able to put the development in based on inadequate information in my mind. What if that fails because he didn't do an adequate hydrology study, including those data points? It might have a different conclusion. I don't know that. The board cannot dismiss this question, or forever it will remain.
I have a question. Has the association thought about getting the hydrogeologist or a well driller to look at a complete map of wells and give an opinion about whether or not?
Well, from what I understand, you have power to do that. You can tell this guy to go out and redo his evaluation. And that's within land use ordinance stipulation. So you guys can do that. You shouldn't have to.
I do think it's important to reiterate that generally, as Bob Berry explained earlier, what is looked at with these surveys is whether or not there is water available and it's likely to be available for the subdivision. There is the standard that talks about potential adverse effect on quality and quantity. Typically, we don't see extensive hydrogeological investigations for the purpose of determining whether or not new wells will have an impact on other wells, unless it is something, as was mentioned earlier, something very significant, like a municipal well or a Poland Spring well, something of that sort that could be anticipated to draw excessively and have that kind of an impact. So the fact that, I mentioned that just to point out that I don't believe, and we can hear from them again, but I don't believe that it was an error to not have included every well in the area, because the survey wasn't designed for that purpose, and it wasn't designed to necessarily include every well. Bob, if you have something else you would like to say in response to that issue.
Sure, I just want to remind the board that you were concerned about this, and I hope still are. And the initial materials submitted to the board were deemed insufficient. You asked for more, and we did that. We went out and we had our geologist write more. The nameless geologist, his name is Scott Dixon. He is a professional engineer, a licensed site evaluator, and a certified geologist with 40 years geohydrology experience across the state of Maine. He is a mainland employee. However, he has the highest of ethics and standards, and I would pit him against any other of the few hydrogeologists that there are in the state of Maine. I just wanted to answer that.
Yeah, I see the letter he submitted, but was this, did he know of all the wells in the area when he gave his opinion, or he looked at this state map, but it didn't include a bunch of wells in the area?
Which is, yes, that's correct. He looked at the state well database. When you drill a well, you're supposed to submit that information to the state so that they have well information. For one reason or another, oftentimes it gets omitted. So there are many more wells in the state of Maine than are shown in the database.
So now that you know that there's more wells than shown in the state database, why wouldn't you give another opinion based on what the reality is?
Because the wells that he found in the database showed that there was sufficient water available in the bedrock aquifer below the site. That was the point of the study. He found numerous wells in the area that drew sufficient water to supply the needs for the subdivision. And that was the point of his work. And then later, when there was concerns, he provided another document that talked about the water budget, about how so much more water lands on the site, and that in fact we are reintroducing the water back into the ground.
So there's a survey, when he surveyed the wells, did he went by what they were originally determined to have the flow, or was that updated? Did he get current flow?
No, that it was what was provided in the state database. So it takes about half a gallon a minute to provide what a house needs for water. Most wells will produce anywhere from half a gallon a minute to 4, 5, 6 gallons a minute. Mine at home produces 10. It depends on what fractures you hit when you drill the well into the bedrock. And he found numerous wells in the area that produced significantly more than that. So at that point, we can conclude that the bedrock aquifer below the site has water sufficient for the project. There's no need, once you found 20, 30 wells that produce water and from that aquifer, there's no need to then minutely study each and every well in the area and go to each site. By the way, we don't have permission to go onto all these people's properties to then survey their well. So it's a matter of how many data points do we need to show that we have water? And we have plenty of data points to show that we have water.
And I don't think there's any question about that. The concern is not that, obviously. The concern is that the new wells will impact the existing wells, so. And the way in which that was addressed in the application, as I believe you've explained, and as I understand it, is that that was the second stage that your hydrogeologist looked at rainfall and looked at the water that would be returned to the system through the septic system. So those two elements, is that it?
Yes, the latter is we draw water, we put water back. That's everybody's here does that at their house. So we're showing that there's plenty of water. We're showing that we're returning the water. He looked at both of those as a standard course of his work. What he did not do is do a detailed inventory of all the wells in the area, check for flow rates and capacities, drawdown effects, quality, etc. That is just not something done on a project where we're drawing and replacing the water. As I discussed earlier, I don't need to go into that again, unless you'd like me to.
Well, I know nothing about, let's assume I know nothing about hydrogeology. Is your experts opining that adding 9 residential wells to this area will not adversely affect the water flow of abutting wells?
I believe he states that in his document, doesn't he? And I stated that in a document as well. But I can answer your question.
Right, I'm not saying he doesn't state it, but I wonder, if you're telling me it's in the document already, I'll go back and read the document again.
Sure. I said in the document that we cannot guarantee that one well drilled will not affect another. Every person here, when they had their well drilled, took that risk. So there's no guarantee of that, even if a detailed hydrologic study was done. That's just not a reasonable standard, and that's not what the ordinance says. So now I'm losing my train of thought. And anyway, no, I can't guarantee that, but
You can't guarantee, but your expert said it's based on the expert's opinions, it's very unlikely that it would have an adverse effect. Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that. It is extremely unlikely, even if it's extremely unlikely, and I can evidence that by the abundance of water in the wells in the area that he found in the state well database. And I can evidence that by the fact that we're drawing the water out and we're putting it back in. Did I answer your question, Peter?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Bob, you know where that, I was looking for that statement by your hydrogeologist.
Thank you, Jack. I was just thinking about going back, rummaging through all that material, going, oh no.
So the conclusion here, made by Scott Dixon, based on the above information regarding the existing bedrock water supply wells in the area, the bedrock aquifer is likely to have adequate capacity to supply potable water to meet residential demand without resulting in adverse on or off-site influences such as excessive drawdown.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Yeah, it would take me 20 minutes to find.
I had too much stuff there.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, good question. Good health, still from Woolwich. 192 Manitoba Camp Rock, excuse me. So if that's the case, what's that? And one of the wells, or two of the wells, or three of the wells is fouled in some way, not enough water, the quality of water, that sort of thing. Do we have any restitution? Is there any way that we can make a recovery from that?
Well, I can ask the applicant again for a perspective, but my reaction, and others, please chime in, but my reaction is that it was stated that there are never guarantees that someone's well is not going to run dry. And, based on my own knowledge and experience with this issue, bedrock is very complicated, and to understand exactly what causes any one particular well to run dry or have some other issue, I think would be a major undertaking. And so
the short answer is no.
I don't know that there would be, you couldn't assume, for instance, that the reason your well ran dry was because of the new subdivision. I think there could be a host of reasons why a well could be impacted.
Thank you.
Bob, did you have anything to add to that? Or?
Very briefly, Madam Chairman, is that what bedrock aquifers are basically fractures in the bedrock. And those fractures cast a very wide net. Ike Goodwin from Goodwin Well and Water, I've worked with many times. He told me a story once where it was 7 miles away. Somebody drilled a well 7 miles away and somebody else's well dried up. Because that person drilled a well and drew immense amount of water. It was for an agricultural purpose. They drew immense amount of waters. 7 miles away, somebody's well went dry and claimed it was because of that well. Everyone was like, it's 7 miles away. That couldn't possibly be. It's not even in the same town. It's a long ways away. It'd be like someone drilling a well on the other side of Fayette and the town's water supply just dries up. And so they tested it. They have ways to test that. They run dyes down through the water. Sure enough, that was it. So this project's proximity may have nothing to do with that. That's right. It's extremely hard to prove. Anybody's well can go dry at any time for natural and man-made purposes. So I can't make any guarantees that anyone's water will be sufficient after the project as it is today. I will say that if someone's water is insufficient today, I urge them to have it tested and talk to a geologist or talk to a well driller and see what they can do to get a healthful, safe water supply.
Thank you. Other comments? Yes, sir.
In Briar Cahill, from Forward, we have a camp Manitoba. I just want to ask this gentleman, if we draw water and then it goes into our septic system and leaches back into the ground to replace the water, how could anybody's well go dry? That's all.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Sullivan. My company is Mac Enterprises Inc. Oh, we're on wheels here. Mac Enterprises Inc. I'm building a house for Meredith Lee. We're right off the Manitoba Camp Road. It's technically a driveway now. It's the beginning of what's gonna be, I don't know if it's, what it's. Juniper Lane. Is it Juniper Lane? Is that what it's gonna be called? Anyways, I'm building down there and I'm gonna come at this a different way. I like to build. I like to see things get built. But I do have some concerns. I put in Meredith's road, put in her driveway, I put in her septic system, I put her well in, dug her foundation. I mean, I know that place like the back of my hand. I know how the water moves through there, and frankly, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just nuts how much water actually comes through that land. I have some concerns about the road, a lot of things that aren't in the plans that I think should, at least you should know about. For instance, how all the water comes off Meredith's property. When I built that, working with the town, I put in 4 plunge pools just to take care of the water coming off of the right side of her property. In the plans that I see for this proposed thing, I know they want to redo the road. I don't see anything getting done about the plunge pools. I see there's utility poles going to be moved. But there's no specifications as to what's happening. Nor, I mean, like I said, I've spent every day out there for the last 2 years, pretty much. I've seen the people out there looking, checking it out and so forth. I have not seen them in the big rainstorms. I saw nobody out there this spring. The snow, you guys, I don't know how you guys figure it all out, if it's just by rainfall or whatnot, but snow melt, things like that. It's just a lot happens around there, a lot of water. And if that thing's gonna be dug up, what's gonna happen to Meredith's driveway? There's no plunge pools that are proposed, as far as I could see anyway, unless there's a plan that I haven't seen. You know what I mean? We did culverts, this, that, and the other thing, trying to move water around, try to get the water to sink into the ground and not go into other people's properties. They're barely doing that with what we got there. And if you tear up the plunge pools at the bottom of Meredith's driveway, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know who I trust to, who's gonna fix this, who's gonna make it happen, who's gonna make it right. Where's the plan of what's this, what this is actually supposed to be? I saw grades, things like that. Yeah, I get all that. But there's a lot more to take into account. You got the whole beginning of Manitoba Camp Road till it gets to where her driveway even started. That started washing out this year. A lot of water comes off Howard's property. He's off the corner of Lane Road and Manitoba Camp Road. I mean, you literally see water coming out like garden hoses, coming out of the roots of the trees, coming into the ditches there. It is unbelievable. I just hope that everybody's taking into account what really happens. When you start digging into this area, there's not too much for trees and growth there, but there's enough to hold the ground together. You start digging that up, you start moving it around, you got 18 inches of muck on top. and you got nothing to hold it back. And the water just moves like crazy. Water moves around that property year round. And I just want to make you guys aware of what the importance of keeping control of this water and the drainage and everything. I can't really speak for the guys down the hill. I don't know them. I met them here and there, but I mean, as far as their well bills and all that, I mean, that's not really my concern. I'm just looking out for my client. And she put a lot of money into this road. She put in a couple telephone poles so she could get her power out there, and now everything's gonna be uprooted. And if it is uprooted, I wanna make sure that somebody has a damn good plan, and there's somebody there to hold them to the plan. And I'm not here to crab on anybody or anything like that. Like I said, I like seeing things like that. But it's just a matter of, everybody's gotta have their, I's dotted, the T's crossed, or, it gets worse as you go down the hill.
So she's not one of these lots.
No,
Is she lot number 10?
it's this lot right here. Lot 5, map 118, lot 5.
Can you point where the plunge pools are?
There is a plunge pool down on the corner. There is a driveway here. There's a plunge pool there, there's a plunge pool on the other side of the driveway, and then I put a culvert in, so I wouldn't flood out that road actually, if it comes across here to another plunge pool. Now, both of those two plunge pools are actually in the road. There's probably, I'd say, 8 to 10 feet max that I have like a path that can go through there. But the plunge pools are on each side, so however they would have to be re-diverted is one of my very big concerns, because all the water from this side of her property, basically, if you were to put a big horseshoe here, this is how the water comes off this property. So everything from this whole hill, everything from up here actually, comes down around here, down that, into a plunge pool, into another plunge pool, and then goes around her driveway and so forth. So that's where the 4 plunge pools are. I have one of them too, that the perimeter drains for the house and everything, they actually drain into a plunge pool, because it never stops. The water runs under this ground continuously. I never seen anything like it. It's nuts. And then we also have around the side here, we got another incompleted ditch that goes around the other side, and our leach field is right here actually. So basically those come around both sides, and this drains out into over here somewhere before the stream.
How would you propose doing that?
Well, I dealt with it, because I needed to deal with it to get the water off her property and try to get it into the ground. But the thing is, now that we have, if you're gonna take those plunge pools away, there needs to be a place for all that water to go. Because not only does it take the water from her property here, right here, this all goes down that way. So I put in 2 culverts here to catch the water as well down at the corner. And that tries to push the water in the woods here and then into the ditch next to to go down the hill, and then it's on the camp road. And all this water from here comes across as well. So the whole road kind of drains down that way, then our property drains into that, and then it goes in all these pools. And this one right here doesn't have a pool yet, it actually just it's naturally just draining out through, we haven't developed that part yet. I don't know who was talking, I didn't mean to cut you off, I'm sorry.
You mentioned, when you began that there were no specifications, for something. It wasn't clear to me what you were talking.
When I look at the plans, I see that the road is gonna be reconditioned to town standards or whatnot.
Okay, so you're talking about road specifications.
Yes. When they do that road, for one, they say they're gonna widen the road, which, okay, I get that, but the road is already about 20 feet. You only have so much room on either side for ditches. And if you're to make that road any wider, which it says it's gonna be widened, to me, that would mean you'd lose a ditch, and I don't really understand how that would work, because, like I said, both ditches are, they're doing something, there's water in them. Yeah. So anyhow, when you're coming across the road up here, coming off the corner of Lane Road as well, I mean, a lot of water just comes down through here, and that ditch catches it and tries to throw it all this way. But anyhow, if it's getting taken over from here to here, all the way out to there, I don't really see where I don't see how it's gonna be drained. You know, as a builder, I know when I put in my proposal, I drew where all the pools went, how they were gonna go, you know, la da 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 da. I didn't see that in these plans. Like I said, I saw grades, I saw where the things were gonna go. I did see some, I saw a big culvert that's gonna go in right around the stream here. I did see that, but nothing in this area. Again, I just wanna bring awareness to make sure that, you know, people are paying attention to what's gonna happen, the worse it gets. Because then once you start tearing all this land up, like I did just this little bit, and what that did with the water, all the water that comes off this spot right here, I can't imagine what all that's gonna do. Not that that's really my business, I mean, I guess that's not my business, I'm here to, you know, represent Meredith and what she stands for. So I guess my business is right there, but it doesn't add up in my book. I mean, I would feel more comfortable if there was something that said, you know, what was gonna be done and how it was gonna be done, and so, you know, everybody's reassured for one, that this isn't gonna wash out their road going down to the camp. You know what I mean, it's not gonna wash out the end of the road that comes across here on, you know, I guess the beginning of Juniper Lane, you know, right at that corner there, because that's gonna be a weak spot. This is just there's a lot going on. And like I said, I don't know, maybe I missed them, but I didn't see anybody out there this spring. I've spent so much time out there in the rain, it's not even funny. I got pictures, I got photos, I got movies. I mean, I went out there before I even put a shovel in the ground and saw what this land is. And a lot of water came over it then. And when I started digging and did all that stuff, it got so much worse. Luckily, we've been able to keep it contained and we haven't caused a big mess or anything like that. But like I said, I think we're almost bursting at the seams. I mean, I don't think it can handle much more. And if you take that away, I don't know what's gonna happen. And I do have some other points to bring up, but if you guys got any questions on that.
Okay, go ahead, you have some other issues.
Her house is going in, hopefully she can move in this summer, that's what we're shooting for. We got two, like I said, two electrical poles. The old plan showed the little corner there still, so it didn't affect the telephone pole. Now it looks like the telephone pole is gonna have to be moved. I'm concerned about how it's gonna work, how it's gonna be, how any of this is gonna be structured. I mean, she's gonna be trying to move in, I got subs coming in and out. You know what I mean? To have the road dug up now would be a real kick in the buns, but I mean, I get it, people are trying to build, but how's this all gonna work? I mean, is there a plan in place? Are they gonna fix the beginning of the road and then work and do another section of the road and then move poles over? I mean, I'd just like to see some structure to it, I guess, in my eyes. I mean, for whatever that's worth. As a builder, I know that some of the things that would hang me up, if I show up and the road's blocked off, there's construction equipment blocking my driveway, if there's a hold up there and I can't get across. If I have somebody scheduled to come in and they can't get in, you know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that takes care of the electrical. Oh, one more thing with the electrical, the second pole, the one by her driveway, she has underground power going right to that. So I have seen excavation markers on both of my new poles from CMP. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if both of them are supposed to be moved or one of them's gonna be moved or what. But I am just, you know, I'm trying to be aware of what's going on, but she has underground power coming to that one pole. So that one pole, in my mind, definitely can't be moved without, you know, severe reconstruction or something. I mean, she had 400 feet of underground wire going up to her house. So that was quite an investment. Anyhow, with that being said, what do we got next? Maintenance, I guess. How does it work with these, what do you call them?
Association.
Associations, there we go. We got the association that exists or whatnot. And before that, you know what I mean? You know, they did that or whatnot, and then we came into here and then, you know what I mean? So we help out with this and we, you know, we plowed all this ourselves and all that kind of stuff. Now, I don't know if there's another association, how one gets made, but there's gonna be, who's gonna take care of all this? And how's all that gonna work? How, like, again, it goes, when I was talking about the schedule and how it's gonna be built and so forth, well, how's it gonna be maintained? You know, the snow, where's the snow gonna, I mean, you gotta push snow somewhere so it can melt. If you fill all these ditches up and then you have a big snow melt, you're gonna have a heck of a problem when you. I don't know, I like to try to plan things like that out. There's a lot of question marks in my mind. You know what I mean? I don't know who's gonna take care of that. I don't know who's gonna take care of that. I know what I take care of now, but I do it for her. So I don't know how does all that work? Do you, with the structure of all that, is it just up in the air?
Well, it's not completely up in the air. There's a road association and they have certain responsibilities for maintenance. But I'd have to turn back to the applicant to, for more detail about how that works. But it is required that, the road be maintained, and they've taken on responsibility for not only for Juniper Lane, which is the subdivision road, but for a section of
Manitoba.
Camp Road.
Yeah, that's just a big thing to take on. I just wanted to make sure. And I didn't know if it worked by how, is it the lots get sold, or is it actually, is somebody, are they solely responsible for it now? Or once it gets approved or whatnot, you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Actually, under the bylaws of the proposed road association, they'd be responsible for the first 425 feet of the Manitoba Camp Road, commencing on the northerly sideline of the Lane Road. Would that cover your area, or is this different?
425 feet, so they're talking about from right here.
Commencing on the northerly sideline of the Lane Road,
Yeah, you were right, just the first. Is that 400 feet right there?
Yep.
So that's just the 400 feet there to the mouth of what is now Meredith Drive. We pulled the driveway permit because it was just a, old trail basically when we showed up. So when we filed all this and started, her address is actually 9 Manitoba Camp Road. So she filed a driveway permit, and that driveway permit pulls her into there and gets her to there. From what, if it's only 400 feet, then I'm assuming that it only gets taken care of from there to there. Wouldn't that get taken care of all by the association?
Bob, could you point out on the map, what the association will be taking on responsibility for?
Gladly. Juniper Lane to here,
Yeah.
and then Minnetonka Camp Road to Lane Road, this stretch.
So that covers that whole thing then? More than 425 feet, or is that just what's in writing? And I'll be honest, I'm a big one. I don't take much on a handshake or what somebody says. If something's in writing, something's in writing, and then people have to stick to it. I got no problems with any of these guys. I don't know them at all, so it's nothing like that. Anybody I deal with, that's how I am. So if something is to be happening, I definitely would like to, for my client's sake, I would feel much better if things were very well laid out and in writing, by all means.
So it's 425 feet, that whole stretch to Juniper Lane, except for the.
That's 425 all the way to there?
425 feet referenced is.
That's 400 feet right here. Okay, that's only right there. That's 400 feet.
I don't think he's saying that. I think he's saying it goes to Juniper Lane.
I'm sorry.
I was just trying to answer the board's question.
Yeah, go ahead. I
The
didn't mean to-
425 feet that's continually referenced is about, the 425 feet is intended to reference from Lane Road along Minnetonka Camp Road to the beginning of Juniper Lane. That's when you hear the 425 feet of road, that's the road that we're referring to. It's that piece from here to here. I hope that helps clarify.
Who takes care of the rest?
What rest?
Go to the road that goes up from the subdivision.
Well, that's Juniper, right? So.
Then the 20 that goes on.
Go ahead, no, you go ahead.
You got the podium, sir.
No, just in writing, that's what it says right here, that's what it says in writing. I guess that's what I'm understanding.
The road association bylaws include Juniper Lane and the 425 feet of Minnesota Camp Road.
I guess as long as that was all in writing, then good enough. I don't know what's in writing, so I'll leave that up to you guys. Anyhow, I'm just up here to voice my concerns and so forth, so. Anyhow.
Is there any other issues that you would like to lay out for us?
Just, no, pretty much that's it, you know what I mean, how the drainage, the runoff and so forth. I can't attest to all the well stuff, we drilled a new well, I don't know if it's on the list, that's not really my concern. Just basically the runoff, and I just wanna make sure that her property is drained properly, she can get in and out, and then, you know, everything is honky-dory for her, basically, you know what I mean, she's put a lot of time and money in this, and I don't wanna get set back in the end.
Any questions for the ordinance?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Meredith Lake. I thank you for the time tonight. Just to add to what Jason said, I'm concerned because my driveway is right in the path of all this construction. And God forbid I have some sort of an emergency, be it an ambulance that needs to come in, the fire department. I would like to know, have some assurances that my driveway will not be blocked. Also, the fact that the homeowners association that's being proposed is supposed to take over this road. My understanding, I might be wrong, is that that won't happen until people actually buy into those properties. So what happens before that? That the road from Lane to where my driveway is already deteriorating. We're talking about building 9 more homes. I know what it takes to build 1 home and then on traffic. So we're talking about 9 homes. And then in front of, from my driveway on, I own property down there as well. So we put the driveway in close to the boundary line. So my concern is the deterioration of Minnesota Road and the deterioration of the road that Jason built on my behalf because of all this construction that's gonna go on. I understand that the road is being built to a certain standard, but I don't know that that standard accommodates construction equipment for 9 homes. And again, I'm not any type of professional, but I just wanted to air that because there is a need for emergency vehicles from time to time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Bob, could you address the issues of road construction, maintenance, accessibility? My general understanding is what we had discussed earlier was that the applicant would be responsible for the road, for its construction and maintenance up until the point at which there are property owners who would be part of the road association. And then that association would be responsible for ongoing maintenance. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Until the association is formed, until there's enough lot owners there to form it, the developer is responsible for the maintenance, construction and maintenance of the road. So there's no lapse in maintenance. The construction is disruptive. I can't sugarcoat that. We've all experienced it. We live in Maine, and all the construction happens from like June to September, and it will be disruptive. I can't stop that. However, the road base can be put in relatively quickly, and minimizing disruptive time. There will be no time when that there will be obstructions to emergency vehicles, except during the very short time when we actually have to put bulldozers in and clear that out and add earth and gravel to the road.
And even then, a contractor will bend over backwards to let an emergency vehicle through. This is the realities of construction. And it's not just in Readfield, it's in Maine, it's in the entire nation and the entire world. Construction is disruptive, and there will be a time of disruption while that construction takes place. I can't sugarcoat that, I'm sorry, but every effort will be made so that Ms. Lee, is that your name? I don't want to mess it up. Mary, thank you, Mary. We certainly don't want to disrupt her access to and from her house. Every effort will be made to keep that open. And allow her and any other, her guests and traffic and emergency vehicles and fuel deliveries and anything else so that they can get through there.
What's happening to the water that runs off her property? It's not going into the plunge pool, and the ditches are no longer.
Sure. Plunge pools are an excellent way to catch sediments. It's a DEP approved best management practice. That while the site is under construction, you build plunge pools, the water goes through the plunge pools, sediments settle. That's why they call them that. So that's a great way to do it, and it's used throughout the state. After the construction is done and the site is stabilized, vegetation has been reestablished, channelways have been riprapped, and I know some of those have been because I've seen them. Once the site is stabilized, plunge pools serve little purpose other than to catch the water and then release it out the other side. Their small size typically means there's no stormwater attenuation. It does allow some of the water to go into the ground. There's no question there, but so do the channels, so do the outlet on the other side of the road where it would then go out into the woods. Buffers through the woods are an excellent way to infiltrate groundwater into the ground. So as a method of controlling sediments, the plunge pools were a great idea. Once her site is stabilized, they don't serve a lot of purpose from an erosion control or stormwater standard. They're not large enough. Those plunge pools, the ones that exist, the ones that we would have to remove, exist in the public right of way. And so we will have to remove those to build the road.
What will happen to the stormwater from her property?
It will hit here and it will continue down to the stream and cross down right there in that culvert. That was all accommodated when we sized that culvert to cross water into the brook.
Would it be reasonable to assume that when you get closer to construction of the road, that there'll be a more specific schedule about what's going to happen when, that perhaps you could share with Ms. Lee?
The road construction is scheduled for within 2 to 4 months, and it'll be done. Not counting CMP, and I can address the CMP concerns if you'd like after. So it'll happen relatively fast. It has to, because remember, the stream crossing has to happen within a certain window. We're not anticipating that to dry up too soon this year. It's been a pretty wet spring. So probably it'll be July before we're allowed to cross that. But we can do work on either side of it with a temporary bridge across that. And so once we have approval, we're talking about 2 to 4 months. So the breakdown below that is then comes into construction scheduling. The clearing of the land, the grubbing of the stumps, the filling of the ground to meet subgrade level, and then adding the gravel on top of that. And it typically happens just lockstep.
Can I ask a question? This is Jeff Green.
Yes.
So if for some reason John is not able to complete the road, or the process of completing the road causes damage to other people's properties, will the planning board require this developer to put up a standby letter of credit that could cover the costs of ameliorating the problem?
We have not talked about requiring performance guarantees. for several different reasons. Our ordinance requires some kind of financial assurance of that sort if there are if there's public infrastructure that's being developed. But in this case, there is not. And so, no, we have not required that. My understanding is that this is pretty basic road construction. The CEO would be overseeing the construction generally to ensure that such things as, erosion sedimentation control measures are being put in place. So I would assume that, it's not going to cause the kind of damage that you're suggesting it could.
I asked the question because when John's father tried to build this road and came to the planning board, they did require him to put up a standby letter of credit so that if problems were caused by the construction or damage was caused to other properties, we could draw on the standby letter of credit to cover the cost of ameliorating the problem.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the comment. We'll take that under consideration.
This is Margot Stern. May I make a couple of comments or?
Please go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'm one of the property owners in Camp Manitoma. And I found Jason's comments about things that I know nothing about, and the fact that he has reviewed these plans so carefully to be protective of his client, it's Meredith, right? To be very helpful. And I would like to request that the board in its deliberations, if you plan to approve this, that you would require first that some very specific detailed plans and explanation be given for what are clearly huge water issues that are going to will affect the whole area and could cause a lot of damage and require a lot of money to fix it. And I would think that that would be a reasonable thing for the board to require of the developer. I'd also like to go back to Debbie Norris's concern about in a sense, the wrong development plan being cited, the one that was done in 2003, which was negated by the Maine courts. And I think, Bob, you made the point that the reason he looked at that is that he needed to see the location of the woodlots. That's my understanding. Those locations show on the real development plan that is legal and appropriate, that was dated 1980. So it would seem to me that they need to be referring to a development plan that is actually accurate and does not give people false or inaccurate information. I would also think that if the board would like it, and I would understand it if you would like it, if you'd like a copy of what the decision was, the court decisions were with respect to that litigation. I think that would be an appropriate thing for you to ask for. That's all.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Rich DeMarco. I'm also a member of the association, Manitoma Association. I've been a seasonal resident since about 35 years, and I'm at 180 Manitoma Camp Road. I'm currently also the treasurer of Manitoma Association. And my concerns are obviously the new road association and the maintenance. And it was mentioned that there's bylaws already written, if I'm not mistaken. I'd like to see a copy of those bylaws because my concerns are where the funds are going to come from to maintain this road and what portions are going to be for Manitoma. Since Manitoma is mainly a seasonal residence, the portions should be minimal percentages compared to the year-round residents that are going to be worried about the roads. So I guess I'm interested to know what's in these bylaws, and do they include the how the funds are raised to maintain this road?
Well, sir, the bylaws were part of the developer's submission and part of the preliminary plan materials, I believe, though. And so it's all public record. You have access to that through the town. You can also ask the developer directly, of course, but you don't need to. You can get it from the town.
Okay. One last question is no one has ever talked about the environmental impacts of the runoff. Has there been proper studies done? I'm hoping there were to regarding the environmental impact of all these runoffs.
Well, the standards in the town's ordinance deal with, all of these issues that you're mentioning. One of the issues that gets a lot of focus is stormwater, erosion control, and that sort of thing. And if not managed properly, yes, it could certainly cause environmental impact. But the standards in the ordinance are what the developer has been following to provide the information to the planning board and to members of the public to address those issues. And again, as Peter just said, those documents are available, and anyone who's interested in reviewing those and looking at them can come to the town office or request them from the town office. That actually, yeah, they are on this agenda. The town's website has a planning board page, and this material is all on that webpage. So it can be accessed that way as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, if I can.
And you are?
My name is Ricardo Lambert, and I am the owner of 183 Manitoma Camp Road. And I have a question about timing and these modifications to the road and these plunge pools. I guess hearing from Miss Lee's contractor for the first time, I didn't realize that those plunge pools were in place and so close to the road. And I guess my concern is that if the water isn't going to be stored on some level, if the modifications aren't timed right, that we are going to see, with a few timely storms, we're going to see some serious damage to the culverts downhill. A few of the owners at Manitoma have recently had, some real damage to the culverts going into their driveways and having to spend quite a bit of money to make repairs. And I just want to make sure that whatever modifications are going to happen, that stormwater, those issues are addressed really quickly and make those modifications so that, according to her contractor, about taking care of the water on site. And so my worry is that if the modifications aren't done in the right order, that we could see, as he said, a couple of months, 2 to 4 months of road work there. We could see 2 to 4 months of stormwater coming down in a way that will hopefully eventually be addressed properly, but for 2 to 4 months could be quite disastrous for some of the culverts and some of the driveways downhill.
Hey, Bob, could I ask you to come up and just talk about runoff management during construction a little bit from the applicant's perspective?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Stormwater must be managed during construction. That is a general note on the plan. It's DEP required. It's part of the DEP stormwater permit by rule that we've already applied for and received. that the stormwater must be managed during construction. Further, DEP provides multiple best management practices, both in materials and in methods, to deal with that as construction proceeds. That's the primary purpose of a stormwater permit by rule. And so there are erosion controls shown on the plan, both temporary and permanent. Those erosion controls must be in place before construction starts. It's right on the plans and right in the DEP rules. So that part starts. I'm glad you brought it up. That is a valid concern. That is recognized by both this board and the state of Maine, and ordinances and rules written to address that. Does that, I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah. that helps, thank you.
It is, just for the general benefit, information of those who may not have been at any prior proceedings, and we have had, during the course of reviewing the preliminary plan, the board, we've had extensive back and forth with the representatives of the developer about this very issue. So, it's not that we are paying a lot of attention to it. Doesn't mean we're necessarily getting the right place, you may not believe that, but we are trying very hard to do that. May I have a question from Ms. Stern?
Yes.
Because Ms. Stern, you mentioned a court decision. If you believe that any prior court decision is relevant to what we're looking at now, feel free to submit it to the town, to the planning board or the code enforcement officer, and we'll look at it. But we're not gonna search out court decisions on our own on the thought they might be relevant. So if you have a copy, any of you, and you think it's relevant to what we're doing, feel free to submit it.
Thank you. No, we would be happy to do that and would not expect you to be searching for that.
Thank you.
Okay, other comments? Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Mark Benke, 168 Manitoma Camp Road. I'm gonna try not to beat a dead horse on everything we've talked about so far. Touch on a couple of things that I feel are relevant. This has been a long process. Madam Chairwoman, you mentioned it's a major subdivision. We are over a year into this. This, I believe, is our 9th meeting, 2nd public hearing. And I only say that because I want this to be successful. I do not want an unsuccessful subdivision next door to me. And I believe that being successful requires not only meeting the ordinances and, being able to check that off. Yep, water adequacy, supply, check. Plat, check, everything checked off, but also to be very detail oriented and make sure we got the I's dotted and T's crossed, so that when this thing does get approved and goes to construction, everybody is comfortable with it. Any potential issues that we can foresee have been addressed prior to approval, because once it's approved, the ship has sailed, and it's gonna be a lot more difficult to get things agreed upon prior to approval once it's approved. So that being said, we've really narrowed down a lot of issues that when we first started, it was a laundry list. I think it's down to, I say 4 key issues now that we want to do. I'm going to start with number 1, Manitoma Road. In the February meeting, the applicant agreed to upgrade the first 425 approximately feet of Manitoma Camp Road to town standards. I have not seen a submitted plan indicating that. It was stated, but nothing in writing. And I will admit, I've been on the road, and if anything was submitted since Friday, I have not seen it or looked at. So it quite well could have been submitted, but I don't know if it has or not. What I looked at, there was no plans for upgrading on any of the plan sheets, the first 425 feet of Manitoma Camp Road. Likewise, following the ordinance, there's supposed to be a construction estimate. There was one provided, but it did not include that first 425 feet of road. So I think plans are lacking in that, and that they need to be updated so we can all be on the same page with that. As far as the road association and them, the Manitoba Woodlands Road Association taking over the maintenance and repair the first 425 feet of road, that checks the box, sounds great. A lot of detail that is left out. Scheduling, for the people that are year-rounders that are in Camp Manitoba, our plow guy gets there first and plows, then John's guy plows his. Who pays what? How does this go? He gets there first, we get there second. At what point will road maintenance and repair be done? To what condition does the road need to be? A lot of minor details that really should be worked out now before things get approved so that we can all be on a level playing field in that sense of things. Because I can see that until lots are sold, nothing's getting done to Manitoba Camp Road because there's really no funding for it. Unless and until it gets so bad that the developer needs to maintain it so that he can actually get back in there and sell lots. So there's just a lot of detail that I think needs to be done there. Second point, the word Manitoba, right? We can't copyright it. We're not asking them to change the name. What we're afraid of is by having Manitoba Woodlands and Manitoba Camp below it, Manitoba 2, 1. I know that they're separate. Everybody in this room knows they're separate. The general public does not. They'll see Manitoba. Oh, hey, great. I can get down there. No, they can't. And all we were asking for was, if it's possible, and I know it's not really in the ordinances or in the purview of the planning commission, but just put something on here that says, yeah, this Manitoba is not associated with that Manitoba. Obvious statement for those who know, but some lay people don't know that. So that's the second point. Third point, wells. I'm going to try to come at this as a different angle because everybody's been doing wells. All right, and I'm going to move this close because it's kind of somewhat small so everybody can see it. We're not asking. Yeah, come on over. I'm not saying, we're not asking them to do a detailed hydrologic study. I'm not saying that in the least. So let's approach this as the aquifer is a bag of coins. Say that aquifer's got 100 coins. Say one well takes out 1 coin. All right, in their study, they used 11 wells. The 11 wells are in blue. They're adding 9 more. So that's a total of 20. 20 coins come out of a bag of 100. Hey, that's adequate. I'd say it's adequate. That 1 coin that gets out, Bob is saying that coin goes right back into the water. Goes through 200 feet of bedrock, through fissures and everything, and gets replaced right away. And does not happen that way. I'm not a hydrologist or a geotechnical guy, but I do know common sense says that does not, you take 300 gallons a day out, 300 does not go straight back in. It's got to go through all that sediment filtering, filtration, fissures, everything. Bam. Then you get it back into the aquifer. Well, let's say I said, 20 out of 100, okay. But there's 28 more wells that were pretty close around there. Now it's not 20 out of 100, it's 48 out of 100. Okay, acceptable still. But wait, there's a community well that's got 22 people. That's 22 more coins coming out. Now we're at 78 out of 100. Thereabouts, if I do my math right. Is that acceptable? I don't know. Could be. I'm not the hydrogeologist. I'm not Mr. Dixon. I don't know if Mr. Dixon took that into consideration. I don't know. And that's what we're trying to say is, what happens if that bag of coins is actually 100 or 1,000 coins? Plenty of adequacy. What if it's 50? Not adequate. Things go bad. So we're not saying that Mr. Dixon's wrong. We're just saying that we don't think he used enough data points to make his certification of adequacy. And we're just requesting that the board utilize Article 6, Section 3BO, which says the planning board may require the applicant to perform additional serious studies or hire a consultant to assist the planning board with its review at the site review application stage. And that cost is to be borne by the developer. So all we're asking for is someone other than Mr. Dixon. Mr. Dixon's involved in this and great. And if this other person can affirm it, fine, no problems. But just statistically, the data, missing 66% of the data, available data, just by looking at it. Granted, it's not posted on the health department website of wells, but I just took an aerial view, satellite imagery, said these are the houses, there gotta be wells there. Even if I just assimilate that they're the same drawdown and flow of all the other wells that were in this system, that's a lot of water that's not accounted for. And is it adequate? I don't know, could be, could not be. That's all I wanna say about the wells.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Sure.
The more wells you have that have sufficient water, the addition of 9 other homes doesn't seem like a big percentage change.
Not the addition of the 9 wells, but if you take in all the ones that are missing, now that's a
Went
great,
from 20 to 40, 48,
yeah.
and they're all, and most of them are fine. I mean, I don't know how to find out when it's fine.
Well, I don't know either. I'm just saying that if you say there's 28 that are missing, even if you just assume that an average, they do the same production as the ones that are identified, is there gonna be enough adequacy by adding 9 more? I don't know. That's all we're saying. We're not saying that these 9 wells are gonna adversely affect our wells. Likewise, our wells might adversely affect their wells. I don't know. But it just seems that the original analysis of 11 plus 9 of 20, when in fact there's more like 78, statistically, that just seems disproportionate and a little out of whack.
But as Mr. Dixon used the state table of wells.
He used the ones that are blue. He used the 11 wells, from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong.
He had more. He did what you wanted to do, and want somebody to do. To make an assumption like you're making here, the other wells to make. And have that. Couldn't you do that now?
He might be able to do it now, but what I'm asking is that he's already made a determination based on his study. We're just asking for another independent review of the same thing that Mr. Dixon did, but just by somebody else to come to the same conclusion Mr. Dixon did. Hopefully that will come to the same conclusion.
You know, I think it's important again to understand that the way in which Mr. Dixon approached this was not to count the number of wells and to think about how much water they were drawing. That wasn't the survey that he did. It was to generally understand that the wells in the area produced sufficient water. And then by extension, he could determine that sufficient water would be available to this new subdivision. And then I think more generally, looking at rainfall and so forth, he drew the conclusion that he did not believe that these new wells drawing would adversely impact existing wells.
Right, but the number that he used to determine the sufficiency was 1/3 of what's actually out there.
Yeah, but again, I don't
So
think he was looking at
statistically,
numbers.
yeah, but statistically, that sampling is skewed and could give a false positive.
If now you're saying there's 78 or 700 or 5,000 wells that are all supplying ample water, then drilling more wells. It's obvious that that is a wet area. Everybody's got plenty of water except for one well, apparently having trouble for 50 years. So I don't.
There's a lot of water on the surface that's moving. How much is actually going down with the strata and then through the rock and all that? So I'm just saying that we might be beating a dead horse. I don't know, but all I'm saying is that statistically, the 1 out of 11 adding 9 to make 20 out or 20, when in fact there's more like 70, you're missing 60% of the data that's available to analyze not necessarily do a detailed analytics on, but you can make some assumptions, say, okay, is 70 drawing out that same amount gonna still have enough with these additional 9? Or is it drawing too much that these additional 9 are gonna be hampered? That's all we're asking. We're not doing a full detailed study. No, I just want somebody else to say, taking into account the wells that were missed, averaging out flows, and is that bigger statistical number still adequate? That's all we're asking. That's all I'm asking for. Let's put it that way.
Really noted.
Thank you. All right. Last but not least, stormwater. All right. Now, permit by rule. What I'm showing here is the light blue is current flow, dark blue is current flow. Everything's just kind of flowing off. It's kind of getting collected where the new pipe's gonna go. The red is what's gonna happen after post-development, and the pink is what's after post-development. Now, the Stormwater Article 8, Section 10, Paragraph A, new construction and development. All new construction and development shall be designed to minimize stormwater runoff from the site in excess of the natural pre-development conditions. A is followed by B, stormwater standards for land uses that require site review. It's not an or, it's an and. So we believe A still applies. And as Mr. Robert Green from the Maine DEP Regional Licensing Manager replied to me in an email, that the permit by rule does not trump or supersede or negate any local ordinance of stormwater. So B does not negate A. A stays in place. Now, the good news is they've got a fire pond. That's awesome. Way down here, right there. Now, you see how all this water is going? This water is going there. They've got a pipe there. All of this water is now being concentrated right here, outletted on this piece right there. Which, taking the bigger map of the wells for reference, it's leaving the site right here, and based on terrain, it's flowing all the way down here. Well, that's Mr. Norris's property, that's my property. All this stormwater that was spread out is now being concentrated to go that way, even though it's a level spreader and spread out 80 feet. They're taking 400, 500 feet of frontage, swishing into a pond and releasing it 80 feet wide, and then flowing that way. Now, I've got videos and everything, but we've been here too long. I don't know if I'm going to show those videos, but what I do want to say is we're almost there on the stormwater. We got a weir in the designs of the outlet. Awesome. Awesome, awesome sauce. That outlet for lack of better planning has a notch about this size in it. Okay? Now there's a point in this plan here with this weir. This is the outlet structure of the fire pond. All right. 15 feet wide at the base, 1.5 inches tall. There's a little notch in the concrete. Concrete here, from here to there, 24 feet across. Now, that little opening here, depending upon how high the water gets, does different flows. So, when the water is about 1/3 of the way up, it flows at 1.1 feet per second. Okay, how many know what 1.1 feet per second look like? All right, let's convert that, 498 gallons per minute. All right. Anybody know how much a fire truck pumps out? 1,000 to 2,000 gallons per minute. All right, so now we're halfway up, or 2/3 of the way up, 3.06 feet, or 1,300 gallons per minute. It's now coming out of this little opening here. And then if it's all the way to the top, 2,472 gallons per minute are going through that little notch. Now here's the deal. where, during what storm is the height of that water? And is that meeting pre-development flow or not? I don't know. Do you know? Can't answer that. We don't have any calculations to say, yeah, stage storage, if this is flowing that, pre-development flow is this, we're good. That's all that I'm asking. Proves that that happens, because once that tops over this little notch, once this piece of paper gets full of water, it now becomes a 24 feet wide opening. When that 24-foot wide opening happens, this is what the flows go to. 12,000 gallons per minute, almost 13, 36,000 gallons per minute, and 66,000 gallons per minute. The basin, I believe, is scheduled to hold 41,000 gallons. So basically, at top of this berm, you're emptying out that whole basin 1.5 times. Or the fire truck has pumped it about 6 minutes. 6,000. 10 minutes, sorry. So it'd just be nice to know how much water is actually coming out compared to what is coming out now, because I don't know, can we play a couple of videos?
Specific ones you want to do?
Yeah, we'll just start with one. Just do the top one. Yeah, 311.
I'm glad. Let's see if I can make this to work.
All right, so these are from my house. Remember, all that water that I'm flowing over land is coming to my house. We've got what's called a moat around the top of our house. This is an August storm that was somewhere between the 2 and 10-year event. It dropped about 3.5, 4 inches of rain. And that's after the storm, that's all the water coming off the upslope land, which this is upslope of me, and hitting my moat. I do another one. Now, this is water flowing through my property, and the right there, that's all coming out of that moat. That other side's coming up off of Kent's Hill property above me. All right. That's normally dry. That only flows when it rains. Yeah, next one. And the other side of the moat goes to culvert ditches in my driveway. And you'll notice that, you know, the culverts are full. And it's even jumping into the ditch and flowing over. Now Warren has some videos too, and this was of a spring. So remember, this was August storm. So from Warren Norris, just start with the one. It starts off blurry, but it gets clear, and you can see the water actually running off the surface. He's got a moat around his place too. That's directly downstream of this development. All right, that's with woodland covered. The subdivision is going to take out woodlands, going to put impervious area. And if we don't control the stormwater here, that's going to be more than that. And that's going to cause damage if that gets any bigger than that. And I'd say that's probably somewhere between a 2 and a 10-year storm as well. Running out. Another one. And that's just more of the same.
What's your proposal?
My proposal is for you to recommend or request the modeling results of the stage storage to see at what storm level, how high this water is and what's the flow coming out of the weir. And does that equal to or less than or greater than the pre-development conditions? So that we can take a look and see if they're meeting the ordinance of being close to pre-development conditions, or if they're just blowing it out of the water and twice as much water is going to be headed down towards my property and Mr. Norris's property and eventually into Lovejoy Pond.
As part of their application, they did submit this drainage summary table. So that's post-development.
Yeah, but that was the first submittal, and that was when they had all their LID and their low impact development drainages on each lot. That's different than what this is. They haven't submitted anything since that first submittal regarding stormwater calculations or flows or anything. So that's all we're requesting, so we can look at it to make sure that we are complying with paragraph A of Article 8, Section 10. And it's great that, I mean, I'm not worried about the quality, that's PBR is covering the quality part of it. That whole paragraph B covers the state with their water quality, but your local ordinance of water quantity is not being, you see, you might say it is, there's no proof, there's no way to verify it, no way to justify it. So that's it. Those are my 4 points. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are any questions, planning board members? Mr. Benson?
This is Eric Howard. I would like to ask just a question of the board, if I may.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
Eric Howard, can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
I'm up 135 Lane Road, right on the corner, and my biggest concern at this point, considering we're about ready to rip up all of Lane Road and repave it, and now we're adding potentially 9 houses, on average 18 additional vehicles to what's already on the road, plus dump trucks and everything else. I mean, has a traffic survey been done at this point, examining this and how this is going to impact Lane Road specifically, let alone all of the concerns that have been raised over the last year with Manitoma? I'm very concerned as far as the Lane Road goes and how it's going to impact my direct access to the Lane Road, right? So as these construction projects continue on, and also within the quality of life that's going on around here. I mean, we've had 2 new houses go up in the last 2 years. Now we're talking about adding an additional 9. It's very concerning for me as a resident.
There is a requirement that some information about potential traffic impacts of any kind of development is submitted. So we do have some information on that. You'll have to forgive me, I don't recall specifically what it is, but there is, that was addressed in the application. And again, that material is accessible to you. If you wanted to look at that, you can go to the town website or to the town office and get that information. There is, again, something in the application, but I don't remember specifically what that information consisted of at this point. But it is a standard that is required to be addressed as part of the site review process, potential traffic impacts on surrounding areas. Chip,
Comments?
yeah.
Yeah, there were some comments left in the box, but I think most of them have been addressed, but just so we show that we looked at them. There was one from BG, please do not assume anything you should know. Did the hydrologist visit the site? Yeah, I'm gonna scroll up. Thank you. How long does it take surface water to reach the aquifer? I think that might have been answered already. The circle at the top with 3 dots and more under it, click on it. I think they're all covered. And if they're not covered, somebody can chime in now online.
I just wanted to kind of comment on the picture he had.
Could you come up?
Sure. The picture that he had of the water coming out of the woods there on the hill and it'll flow down, it's very similar at the top of Meredith's, right behind Meredith's house. So just to kind of reiterate, that's the kind of water coming off the hill from up even beyond what we got going on there, which carries on down. But I'm glad you had those pictures because I had pictures but didn't think to bring them. But anyhow, that's the kind of water that we got to divert. That's all.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Manis.
Yes, sir.
Somebody raised the issue of financial capacity to do the development work, and they mentioned that you didn't have an estimate for the road from 440 feet of road, but I see that you do have some.
We do, yes.
And, but then, you have this letter from Kennebec Savings Bank from over a year ago.
Correct.
And it says that you have the financial capacity, but it doesn't say what that was based on, you know, which amounts of development that was based on.
We asked them to resubmit a letter after changes were made to the plan and the cost of the road increased. So we asked the bank to resubmit a letter, and we had shared with them the increased cost. And that's why they submitted a second letter. We've actually submitted 2 letters from Kennebec Savings indicating financial capacity, and we adjusted it after the road costs and changes in the plan were made. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I only see the one from March of 24, so the more recent one.
Yes, I believe there was. I can submit both of those. Yes, we've submitted a couple of different ones, and as the plan changed in cost roads, we notified the bank and they again gave a letter of approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can talk about
Yeah.
That second letter would have been given after the plan was amended to include the weir.
Yes, right. All the changes were then factored into the estimates, and we actually submitted the increased estimate and sent that to the bank, and they sent a second letter, so we're covered on that, for sure.
Are there any other comments? If I missed anyone, yes.
I don't, this is Margot Stern again, from Minnesota. It's not a comment, but a question. Is there any period following this meeting at which additional comments can be submitted or not?
Well, we'll get to that point. I'm thinking through that right now.
Okay.
I'll come back to that issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Cheryl Kluge, and I'm an abutter of the Woodlands 50-acre development and a summer resident at Manitoma Association. I came to support this 50-acre Woodlands development. I have heard the concerns that were brought tonight, and I agree with some of them, especially the water, stormwater, and but I honestly do not understand some of their other concerns. This is not a high-density development, and they also do not have any access to the Manitoba Lake, which is a good thing. I have known John Lawrence for 20+ years. We've done business together, we've lived together on the same street, and over the years, we've become friends. He always talked about Manitoba. His long history here and his love of it, it's in his DNA. He knows many of the people here, and he loves this association. Knowing John as I do, this project will be developed with respect and consideration to guarantee the longevity of Manitoba. After the first couple of public meetings, I ran into John and I asked him how it was going. He told me that many concerns were raised about water quality, watershed concerns, roads, driveways. And I asked if the people that opposed to this 50-acre development had written a formal complaint to the planning board or to him directly about their concerns prior to the first public meeting on John's behalf, asking for approval. He said no. And I found that curious for me, that their initial concerns were not formally expressed to him directly, as they all knew John very well. So this 50-acre development is thoughtfully divided into 10 acres, 5 acres, 6 acres, and 3 acres, not a high density development. And I question the quality if the Lovejoy Pond will be affected by this. And if the, excuse me, I lost my place. If the water culverts will be washed out and the water will be just affected. John has chosen an environmentally minded engineer who will ensure that each of the wells or septic systems will be addressed with these issues, and will abide by any amendments added by the planning board. I judge people that I meet and do business with by their character and their reputation. Character is the essence of who we are, what people know of us. Reputation is what people think we are of us. John has both of these. And if you ask anyone who has worked with John, for John, or done business with him, they would tell you his character and reputation is exceptional. He is very well respected in the real estate world for his integrity and honest. And he's funny. The Woodlands 50-acre development will benefit Readfield, and I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with comments?
I wanted to
Anyone?
add one comment, and this has been covered sort of ad nauseum at this point, but just to add another voice, that we had just purchased a property at 188 and realized in looking through the documentation very recently that our well was not on the survey. So I know a ton of other people have talked through that. Mark made a lot of good points, just wanted to add that concern here as well for the record. I think my concern is, you know, if we're looking at a reduced number of wells and the sample size is reduced as a result of that, how can we make assumptions based on an inaccurate sample size? But I think Mark covered that really well.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other comments, questions, anything you forgot that you would like to put forward? Okay. So I'll, actually, Bob, is there anything else you'd like to provide before we wrap up for tonight? Any response you feel should be made that you've not had an opportunity to make?
There are a number of responses that I would make on some of the things you've been told tonight. Some of them are very valid concerns that I know you've already spent lots of time discussing and going over. I don't want to rehash that. There's been a few new items that were presented, some of them not accurate from an engineering perspective. That I just know because of what I do. But we've discussed so much of it already. So I'll just leave it right there, ladies and gentlemen of the board. If you have a question for me, I'll be glad to answer it. Otherwise, we feel like everything's already been addressed.
I have one more question. Did you propose a construction schedule? Do you have that?
You have a broad schedule that says the construction will take 2 to 4 months. It includes the window that's allowed for in-stream work for the stream crossing, but it doesn't have a start and an end date because we can't start until we have approval. We've been 15 months in front of this board. Not your fault. That's just simply the way this process is going. That's totally fine. We're here to answer your questions. But we can't specify a start date because we don't know when we'll get approved. It'll
So
start
when-
immediately after.
You know, at the point where a decision is made, you could provide something more specific about that construction period.
Certainly, I'd be glad to provide that to Chip and because he needs to know, right? Because he needs to be out there
Yes.
addressing any of these items that might crop up, which always do crop up during construction. That's why you have a road board.
You were gonna mention something about the electric pole.
Oh, thank you for bringing that back up. Just that, I don't know why there were markings on the ground. We have not contacted CMP to start any kind of construction, and just in case anyone thought that, we did not. And that CMP does CMP things. Like, we just don't have control over what CMP does. We order power to come in and CMP comes in and does it. They have their own systems and their own standards and their own schedule and their own way of doing it. We've shown poles that we think they should go,
And I can tell you right now, CNP will come in and kind of do what they want. So I just wanted to mention that because CNP was brought up. That's been my experience over 30 years of working with CNP.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Turning to planning board members, we could move forward a couple of different ways. I'm inclined at this point to, number one, keep the record open, not close the hearing. There were a couple of pieces of information that were going to be submitted to us from various parties. And keeping the record open would accommodate that. And secondly, I'm feeling that we need some time individually to reflect on all this and review it. And so I'm not recommending that we deliberate and make a decision this evening. I think that we need to take that to a separate meeting after we've had that opportunity to consider this further. But I'd like to hear your thoughts, your preference in terms of moving ahead.
Paula, were you thinking of keeping the record for 10 days, 14 days? What time period?
I guess I was thinking that, you know, keeping it open until the next meeting, perhaps, we could close it. You want to close it before?
A few
or-
days before, so.
Okay. And, you know, the other question becomes, do we want to take this up in 2 weeks at our next meeting? Or later than that? I don't know how everyone's feeling about that, how much time we need.
Yeah, we have 2 other submissions.
At the next meeting.
Yes.
Actually, the one you mentioned to me.
Exactly.
So, we'd probably be looking at taking this up again at the first meeting in June. The date, the calendar, is that their thing?
I have a calendar.
10th.
Does that, are we able to have a meeting on June 10th? Is the town vote?
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, we don't want to do that. No.
I don't believe the 2 applications that we have at our next meeting will take that long, so you probably could fit if you wanted to do it at the next meeting.
They're both,
Continuation.
they're both completeness determinations, right?
Right.
So that second one has been submitted?
Yes.
It has.
I have to get them all. Last week. Yeah, I will get that.
Okay. So 2 completeness determinations on 2 not very complicated projects. So,
Just so you know, I will be out for the next meeting. The 27th, I will not be.
okay. What's everyone else's schedule look like for the 27th and then for? Well, let's see, conceivably, we could do an off-schedule meeting in June if we needed to. The second regular meeting would be until the 24th of June. Which is getting late. Right. Yeah. So, Dawn is not able to be here on the 27th, we just said. Is there anyone else who couldn't be here? We did this on the 27th.
I'll be here.
John, are you around on the 27th?
Are you still here, John?
Well, okay, why don't we tentatively plan, if it works for everyone else, why don't we tentatively plan to put this back on for deliberation on the 27th?
John's there.
He is still there. He might not have heard us.
John, are you available for a meeting on the 27th?
Of May?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find my cursor.
Okay, let's tentatively plan on that. We'll do the other two and we will bring this one back on the 27th as well. And let's keep the record open until the Friday previous, which would be 23. So record remains open for submissions until the 23rd of May, 5 o'clock on that Friday, the 23rd. So anything additionally that you want to provide in writing, please have it in by then. Anything else? Anyone? Planning board?
Chairman,
Yes.
very quickly, thank you. It's late, you heard everybody, nice work, thank you.
Thank you all very, very much for joining us tonight. Your comments are extremely helpful and we're very grateful for you for taking the time to provide them to us. They will all be considered and we will discuss as a group after we've had that time to reflect at our next meeting. So again, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have minutes to do this before we adjourn. We have minutes from the 8th of April.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a meeting that's continuing. Could you take it outside, please?
Minutes of April 8th. Angelica, I just have one comment, and that is down in the piece discussion of land use permitting procedural documents. The second line, it says that we're created to help streamline land use permitting for residents. And I think we'll get to that point, but the way those documents have been discussed, I think they're more to better document and explain procedural requirements. Okay. And then we'll get to that streamlining piece. I think that's part of what Damon was raising in his report. So, any other comments, Evan?
I have a trivial question, second to last line of under other business. Electricity poles, are they, do we know that they're electricity poles? They're utility poles. But I don't know if they're actually electrified. I don't know what they are.
Utility.
Yeah,
I say utility.
Yeah.
I finally looked at them after we had that discussion. Right.
Any other comments on the minutes? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve the minutes as amended.
Second,
Moved, seconded, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
John, aye. Thank you, guys. Thanks. And just one additional item, I just wanted to let you know that we had some, I think it was the night we talked about those procedural documents. There was some mention and a little bit of conversation around the planning board's bylaws. And I've taken a stab at revising those. They're really old and they need updating. And I'm hoping, well, the next meeting is going to be action-packed, so we won't be looking at them. I was hoping I'd get them to you by then, but it will be the following meeting. But you'll get the draft of those at some point, and we can talk through them. So probably not. So
I wish we had an independent expert on stormwater stuff. That's, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not so concerned about the problems. But there's videos of the stormwater. That guy was building a house.
Jason.
Incredible. And I didn't realize there was so much.
That's that whole, my wife grew up just about that whole side. The other side, we Ridge Road, the house, it's all that. Oh, yeah.
Looks like my
So I guess
The water runs down.
what I would say is that the water's there anyway, and that
It's
just
already-
it's not making it worse.
Yeah.
but what, as our ordinance now says, they can minimize the excess. They don't have to guarantee there won't be an excess.
And it's just wet land.
Yeah, I guess there's some land, I mean, in theory, or sort of there'd be some land that's so wet that any additional development would be unsustainable or maybe not a good idea, but where does that line, how do you get to that point?
Well, he drained Meredith's land, and they're already having washout trouble. But they didn't care when they were draining their land, so, he didn't care while he was doing it.
You're taking that too far. You're taking that too far. He did a great job. The pools, and one thing that was mistaken here tonight, I'm sorry, but I've been qualified twice. We have a lot of DEP people here. Plunge pools help to slow it down and get it into the earth. So I think they're all trying their hardest, but,
Yeah, one of the concerns though, that I had asked a question, or I made a comment to Bob Berry months ago about extreme weather events, because we're getting more of them.
Right.
And so when you see like the videos, and I mean, that's real, and I get it. There's gonna be more of that stuff going on, and there's nothing any of us can do to prevent that.
Right.
And whenever you have a development of any kind that's gonna add some runoff, yes, it's gonna be an increase, and they're gonna say, that made it worse. Well, yeah, but guess what? That's the extreme weather event.
Was Mr. Benke using the theory that somehow that the water could go up over the weir? Yeah, is that, how likely, I mean, I don't know the frequency where that might happen, I have no idea.
I just said, you get more of these things all the time.
Yeah, it's no longer a 100-year storm kind of thing. It's happening.
What was the name again of the developer?
Jason.
Excuse me.
Meredith Lee's, Jason.
His last name?
Sullivan.
Actually, I thought what was most helpful, the most interesting. Whether it changes anything on it.
We're having more wooded buffers between lots help. They don't have.
It can, but it depends on how lots are developed, because people tend to want to get the water off their property. So they tend to get it to a road ditch. And the road ditches go down and go into that pond, and the pond will fill up, and the pond will go over the weir, and you'll still have lots of water going down, so that you can videotape it. Come back and you can say, look what we did.
Yeah. I just wish some of this is, not everything, but some of the comments are people trying to run out the clock or hoping that something will happen in the meantime. Yeah.
People need to live somewhere. Yeah, build houses someplace.
I'll be interested to see whether Ms. Stern or anyone else sends us a court decision, thinks it's relevant.
You're gonna get it, you're gonna get it.
No, it'll come.
Both sides have been mentioned on the way out, speaking to it.
I think that's the least relevant, the only comments we've received.
I think it was when you wanted to develop a lot that was designated as undeveloped, because of the regulations at that time. And septic regulations changed, so you didn't use deep soil. Came back and wanted to be able to develop that. The letter said, and you want to say that would be woodlot forever. And just because the state changed the septic regulations.
But full disclosure, we're both, Jack, do you remember when you walked Jim Lawrence to my office and said, you should talk, he wants to talk to you about doing a case? Do you remember this? This is in the late 1990s. And I realized within 2 minutes, I said, I don't do this kind of work. I don't want to be involved.
Okay, we're adjourned.